Hello and welcome to a new episode of The Bike Show and some even newer adventure bikes from Ikema. But before we get to those, Don rides a sport bike that makes its rivals, well, I'll let him tell you.
At last, we have it here on The Bike Show. It's taken a while, but I'm pleased to announce that we have the RS 660. It's Aprilia's entry into the 650cc twin middleweight class. And you know, that was quite a nervy thing to do. I mean, that class is full. You've got the Kawasaki Ninja 650, Suzuki SV650, Yamaha MT-07, Honda's got something. Anyway, the point is, they're all really good road bikes with a definite sporty credential to them. However, this is not one of those. This is an Aprilia. And if you want to know what Aprilia is about, just have a look at the decal on the tank.
That's right. A company that has that many circuit racing titles isn't about building charming little road bikes. Like everything else in the range, the RS is all about one thing.
Racing. Of course, racing. And you know exactly what that means. It means it's complicated. Let's try to set this up, for example. So you've got the different riding modes. There's commute, there's dynamic, more sporty, there's individual. Now here's the thing, if you want to set up individual, you hold that down, you get to this. Now there's commute, there's dynamic, there's individual. Commute and dynamic are set. However, you can adjust here. That's AEM, that's Aprilia engine mapping, Aprilia engine braking, Aprilia traction control, Aprilia wheelie control, and Aprilia ABS. They've got all sorts, different options of each. But wait, there is more. If you go to this menu here, go into vehicle, go into mode, you can go from road mode to race mode. And what happens then is you've got challenge mode and time attack mode. How cool does that sound? And you can set those up too. Okay, the challenge mode you can't set up, but here again, time attack mode. You want Aprilia engine mapping, Aprilia electronic braking, Aprilia engine braking, Aprilia traction control, Aprilia wheelie control, Aprilia ABS. Nice.
While the other 650 machines have a super style look, the Aprilia is different.
So here's the thing about all the other bikes in this class is that they look great from a distance. Yeah, they look like Paka super bikes, but when you start going closer, you kind of notice that look sort of disappears a little bit. Not badly, it's not like it's cheaply made or anything, but it's just not as crafted. It starts looking more like bits of metal welded together. And it works fine as a motorcycle. However, this here, it's an Aprilia. It's built in Italy. And unlike the others, the more you look at this thing and the closer you look, the more you find interesting little details. Also, this is not a motorcycle made to look like a superbike. This is a superbike. It looks like a superbike because in every way, it is.
So this has been fun, sitting around, looking cool, drinking coffee in a delightful little cafe. But weirdly, the RS 660 is capable of more than just looking cool.
That's right, it can move forward also. It can move forward quite a lot. That's a good deal of forward.
The 659cc parallel twin motor is able to churn out 100 horsepower and 69 Nm of torque, which is somewhat incredible.
So here's the thing, just about every other bike in the sort of 650-ish twin range produces somewhere around 70 odd horsepower. So 100 horsepower is light years ahead. It's incredible. And it's not just power at the top range. I mean, it's got torque for days. From around 6,000 to 11.5 rev limiter, that's plenty. I mean, over there you got tons. And even down here, if you want to cruise at slow speed or commute, it'll do it. Also, what's so cool about it is that low revs, idle and all of that. It's got this low kind of sonorous grunt. Whereas once you start getting it singing, it really sings. I mean, like an operatic soprano. Yeah, that sort of Pavarotti, eat your heart out.
And it will soprano itself all the way up to a top speed of 240 km per hour. Helping out with the motorized opera is a list of electronic gadgetry that rivals even the top superbikes. Actually, that's not accurate. It has gadgetry that precedes them.
So here's the thing, a lot of people have said that the electronics out of this bike come directly from the RSV Superbike, but that's not actually true, because the electronics in the latest RSV4 Superbike were first used in this. So all the electronics that are in this were then put in the RSV4. So it's fair to say that the RSV4 is using RS660 electronics. It's brilliant. And I mean, this thing has everything. Where I mean, other bikes in the class have hardly anything. Maybe like ABS, not much else. Whereas this thing's got all the rider modes, traction controls, ABSs, cornering lights. It's got cruise control. And it's got a quick shifter. Push down, accelerate, change up, and change back down again. No clutch needed. I do love a quick shifter.
The wet weight is a somewhat light on its toes 183 kilograms combined with adjustable KYB suspension.
And of course that also means it can handle very well. Tip it in. It's so light, so I just can't help but feel how light this thing is. And stable. Now, it's a rare combination. How do you light and stable? Also the brakes, like here we come up to this corner, brake, quick shifter down, wonderfully precise brakes, accelerate hard, opera singing. This bike is so much fun. It's so much fun. So to summarize the RS660, it is faster, more sophisticated, better handling and better looking than anything in its class by far. Yeah, and it's got a price to match, where the other bikes are somewhere between 150 to upwards towards 200,000 Rand. This thing is 235,000 Rand. But you know what? You get what you paid for. As a friend of mine in Australia, Boris, the way he described this motorcycle, he said, in a class full of pink blouses, the RS660 is a leather jacket. You know, I hate him for saying that. Genuinely, I hate him for saying that because, well, it's really good and he said it and I didn't think of it.
Aprilia has certainly made the standout bike of the middleweight twin-cylinder class. Although maybe I shouldn't say middleweight because these days that includes anything up to 900 cc's or more. The 6 to 700 cc class then, and as Don so rightly pointed out, the RS660 makes all those look very ordinary, very basic and sort of pointless, unless you're not stupidly rich. Except several of those bikes he mentioned are in fact naked and have been around for absolutely years, and they are much, much, much more affordable. When you go out and buy yourself a new bike, you tend to get the best that you can afford within a certain category. That's why all the models within a particular class tend to be so closely matched, especially in terms of price. It might be more fair to look at something like Yamaha's new R7 that is a racy version of their MT-07, and that should start at around 180,000 Rand or so. It's a lovely thing. But admittedly its power output is still significantly down on the Aprilia and its electronics aren't quite so sophisticated. But if you can forego some of that electronic sophistication and still want a middleweight race replica bike but with a lot more power, then how about a machine that is a living legend? One of the best sport bikes you can buy for road or track, yet largely and completely unjustifiably forgotten these days. Suzuki's GSX-R 750 with a whopping 148 horsepower that was, at least until recently, available for a smidgen under 200,000 Rand. Or if you're looking at the RS660 in the 230 to 240,000 Rand range, then you could save yourself 20 grand or so and buy the more powerful and almost as electronically sophisticated KTM 890 Duke R. Yes, it's naked, but it is a hardcore sport bike that will leave the Aprilia in its dust. Or get Triumph Street Triple RS for even less money. If you simply must have a sub 700cc race replica and you're only going to ride it at the circuit, where you can fully exploit the amazing chassis and electronics package, exactly the same place that the Aprilia will be most enjoyed, then you could treat yourself to the race-ready and multiple world championship winning Yamaha R6 and its 124 horsepower. Don and Boris both seem to be wearing the same blinkers, comparing the undeniably excellent Aprilia to other sub-700cc parallel twins and attempting to justify its price based on its extra performance and sophistication. But I don't believe that if either of them was intent on owning a middleweight sport bike and was prepared to spend their own money, then the dealer getting that money would be Italian. And as wonderful as the Aprilia undoubtedly is, and it is, I struggle to see a use case where you could ignore all these other bikes I've just mentioned in favour of the RS 660. We journalists often, understandably if we're freelancers, tend to contort ourselves into tortuous shapes in order to fit into a nice leather jacket of a verdict about a bike. But the only way to do that is to first remove your spine. By all means, feel free to disagree with me. I'd love to read your justifications in the comment section on our YouTube channel.